I was a business consultant and behavioral strategist for 8 years, and I was lucky enough to work with multiple Fortune 500 companies. And the single most important lesson I learned during all of that time is that good questions are more important than good answers. Because good answers to bad questions are useless. So the first thing that we did with any client was question all the assumptions that the current team was operating under. So what's that got to do with the video that I'm here to make today? A lot of people want to turn their passion into a career. I get asked all the time, how do I get a job in the hunting industry? Or how do I make money somehow in the outdoor industry so that I can spend more of my time hunting? And here's the deal. 99% of these people are going about it the wrong way. Not because of bad answers, but because of bad questions. The gatekeeper model is broken. Most people think they need permission or validation from some type of major brand or company in order to make it in this industry. In hunting, that's the sponsor deal or brand collab. That model, dead. Dead as dead for 99% of the people out there. This isn't just hunting. This is every passion space, from fitness influencers to jujitsu to wood carving, you name it. You love basketball? Cool. You know what the odds are of actually making a team in the NBA? 0.03%. And that's the analogous situation in that industry. Now, is 0.03% really good enough odds for you to base your life plan on? But there's a better way. The NBA isn't the only option. A 6-figure contract with Hoyt isn't the only option. There are 100 other ways to build a life around your passion and make real money doing it. This video is the blueprint for that. I'm gonna use hunting as an example, but this applies to any discipline that you are deeply passionate about. Now, before we get into any of that, there's a fork in the road, and you need to pick which path you wanna go down. Path number 1, you just wanna spend time hunting. You don't wanna spend time creating content, and you don't wanna build a brand. Your goal is more time in the field, not likes and follows. Here's your play. You are gonna get a job that pays well and gives you control over your own schedule. My buddy, Jake Downs, is a perfect example. He spends more time hunting than any douche-fluencer I know. And he does that because he's an electrician and he owns his own company. He's built his life around hunting, but he hasn't built his life around creating content. This one is a bit of a long play. Let's take the electrician thing for an example. You are looking at 5 to 7 years until you can truly dedicate yourself during most of hunting season to spending a lot of your time hunting. You need to finish your apprenticeship, you need to build reputation, you need to earn trust in the industry, become your own subcontractor, and then you can decide when to take jobs, when not to schedule jobs. You can leave hunting season mostly open, you could leave a month open in the summertime, and you can still make 6 figures and have a fantastic life while devoting a way above average amount of time to hunting. Now, 5 to 7 years might sound like a long time, but that's a blink of an eye if you love what you're building. And that's the first lesson I want to get into. I need you to think in years and decades, not weeks and months. We need to be urgent for the work, but patient for the outcomes. And unfortunately, most people's psychology is the opposite. They're lazy when it comes to the work, but they want the outcomes yesterday. There are no overnight hacks. The single most important lesson I learned in my 40s is that consistency kills. If you can just not stop what you're doing, you will beat 90% of your competition just on attrition alone. For everybody else watching this video that does want to create content or build a platform or build a brand focused around the hunting industry or whatever passion it is that you want to pursue, I have 5 principles that if you execute with discipline and commitment, I guarantee you will achieve your goals. Principle number 1, if it feels like play, you will never lose. You need to do stuff that feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. You will outlast everyone who is faking the passion. You want to be in a place where you have to stop yourself from working, not where you have to force yourself to do it. Consistency should give you energy, not drain it. I love waking up at 5 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays to write the outlines for my reviews. It's one of the favorite things I do every week. I love solo hunting. I'm almost irresponsible with the amount of time I spend out in the field myself. I love training. I love going to the gym. I love thinking about going to the gym. I love planning my workouts. Now, these are all things that I've heard other people complain about or ask me, how do you stay motivated enough to do these things? The secret here is, if you love doing this stuff and it feels like play, not like work, you don't need to ask yourself how to stay motivated to do it because you're already drawn to do it. And the thing is, if it feels like play to you and you're energized by it, no matter how good somebody else appears to be at it, if you run the course of time, 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the line, you will crush them because eventually they're gonna burn out and they're gonna run out of this fleeting motivation that keeps them moving forward. And you're not, because you have this deep love and this playful approach to what it is you're doing. Principle number 2, create value that cuts through the noise. Creating content is not the same thing as creating value. You should be able to define with a very clear voice what it is you're giving your audience and how they're better off after consuming your content. I see all kinds of people that think if they put out 5 reels a week and 3 posts and this many stories, that just the sheer volume of content they put out is going to help them build a successful brand. And it actually does the complete opposite. So I want to steal a term from engineering. It's called signal to noise ratio. This is a measure used in science and engineering to define the amount of signal in comparison to the amount of background noise. A high SNR means that you have a very strong signal and very low background noise. A low SNR means you have a very weak signal and very high background noise. So in audio engineering terms, let's take the microphone that's like right up here. Now, if I want my voice to be louder, I can turn the microphone volume that it records at all the way up, but then it's also going to capture everything else in the room. So I need to find the optimum balance of this volume so that it catches the peak signal of my voice with the minimum amount of background noise possible. I need you to think about your content in the exact same way. I see guys posting 10 times a week. No niche, no depth, no clear vision. Pick a lane. Be the go-to guy for one thing. Niche down as far as you possibly can. Get hyper specific about the value that you're going to deliver, and the signal that you create will be so clean and so clear above everybody else's noise that you will have impact with the audience that you're hoping to have impact with. Once we have our signal and we've delivered our signal, we have created value. The next step is capturing that value, monetizing it in some way, shape, or form. Now, before we talk about capturing value, I want to tell a little story. So when I was doing my MBA, we had a negotiating professor. Dude was an absolute savage. And he taught me a really important lesson about negotiating. Typically, the first thing people focus on in a negotiation is how do I get as much of the pie as possible? Whatever it is, if you're buying a house, if you're negotiating a salary, if you're going through if you're buying a used car, there's gonna be a pie. That's the deal. And everybody is focused on, I want as much of the pie as I can get. He said, before you even start negotiating, you should ask yourself, how can I make the pie bigger first? And that's where the creating value part steps in. Would you rather have 50% of a 2-pound pie or 40% of a 10-pound pie? So you want to make the pie as big as you can and then worry about how much of that pie you can get for yourself. And that's where we need to over deliver in that value. So you need a clear signal so that you know you're delivering value to your audience. And then you need to over deliver value to the point where there's no doubt that there's an element of reciprocity. Like there's a level of gratitude for how much that you have given that people feel naturally compelled to want to do something in return. When I first started Mindful Hunter, my wife thought I was crazy because she's like, why aren't you pursuing sponsorships? Why aren't you trying to get something back from your audience? You keep delivering value and creating all these things and just giving stuff away. Back then, I didn't know how I was going to capture some of the value. I didn't know how I was going to take this thing that I love and turned it into a business. But I knew very strongly and very deeply that if I just kept delivering value, one of those days I would finally figure out how to craft some kind of business that would be mutually beneficial between me and the people that follow me or consume my content. On that note, here's a quick update for Mindful Hunter Outfitting before we get into principle 3. There is one last minute opening, and this is hyper last minute by the time this video goes out, for late season rifle mule deer in the rut in British Columbia. The hunt starts November 23rd. There is a last minute discount price on this hunt. So if you have any interest in this, you need to get a hold of me as soon as physically possible. Also, I'm starting to book up for my spring 2026 bear hunts. I'm gonna run bear camp for 7 weeks this year. We're going from the last week of April all the way till the middle of June. Last year we had 6 clients. We killed 5 bears, phenomenal bears. We had an amazing time. I am stoked already for what bear season has to bring. So if you want any information on late season mule deer hunts or spring bear hunts, get a hold of me, jay@mindfulhunter.com. Principle number 3, optimize your workflow. And I'm gonna give you 2 concrete tips to help you do this. The first thing we're gonna start with is to-do lists and checklists. And I know this sounds like hyper basic, but I'm gonna tell you to do 2 things that if you start doing those today, I guarantee they will exponentially increase your productivity almost overnight. Every Sunday night, I want you to sit down and create a checklist or a to-do list for the following week on kind of like a bigger scale, like big tasks. Don't worry about breaking the big tasks down into steps. Just think to yourself, okay, it's Sunday. What do I need to have done by next Sunday that would make this week a success? And I want to give you one more tip in that regard. Prioritization is not about deciding which of all this stuff I need to do is most important. It's about deciding out of all this stuff, what can I sacrifice and not do so that the 1, 2, 5 other things on this list actually get done. So prioritization is not ordering things. It's being ruthlessly honest with yourself about what you need to get rid of and not accomplish so that you can accomplish the things that actually matter. So the question I ask myself on the Sunday night session is, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that are absolutely critical to get done this week? What is gonna move the needle in my ecosystem when it comes to my businesses, my content creation, everything that I do in my life? What are the things that I absolutely cannot sacrifice getting done by the end of this week? They go on the top of the list. Then what I do is every night I sit down and think about the things that I need to do the next day in order to move that needle or get those main kind of tasks accomplished. And then I write a mini to-do list for the next day. It is imperative that you write these lists at the end of one week before the next week and at night before you wake up in the morning. The morning is one of the toughest times to make decisions. You just wake up, you're not thinking clearly, you're pouring yourself a cup of coffee. If you don't have a clear plan of attack and you sit down in front of that computer, you're just gonna waste a bunch of time. If you know exactly what you're supposed to do as soon as you wake up, you just wake up and you start executing immediately. So you have to have, it only takes 5 minutes. I have a notes app on my phone. I'll literally, while I'm watching a bit of TV the night before, I bring up the notes app and I just reorganize. I take the big list for the week and I'll cut and paste the 2 or 3 things that it's okay, these need to get done today. And sometimes I'll even build out 2 or 3 days in advance, but at night, I'm really fine tuning what that next day's to-do list looks like. Now, the second thing we need to do to optimize your workflow is reduce creative friction. Find the things that are slowing you down and kill them. I'm gonna give you this studio as an example. So we've lived in a few houses over the years while I've been doing Mindful Hunter, and one of the biggest setbacks to my productivity was getting the studio set up so that I could film. Because if you know in your brain that it's gonna take you an hour and a half to get the cameras out, get the lights set up, get the sound equipment calibrated, have everything ready to go, get your equipment out, shoot your B-roll. Like there's just this laundry list of shit you have to do before you even hit record. You will procrastinate. It's a fact. But if you have things set up, monitors that swing out from the wall, my tripod just slides back against the desk, this big light up here pivots and goes over against the wall, and this table slides back against that. So in literally 3 minutes, pull the table out, slide the light out, monitor comes out, put fresh batteries in 2 or 3 things, boom, sit down, hit record. So the idea is to think in systems. Like, think in your head, like, why am I not doing the thing that's most important in my business? And any excuses you can come up with about why you're not doing it, figure out how to kill them. And I don't mean like temporarily, I mean permanently remove them from your life. So in my world, reviews are the center of everything. And so I need to figure out how can I do quality reviews with as little friction as possible. And the biggest roadblock for me has always been a studio. So I designed the studio that basically turns on at the click of a button. Principle number 4, goals supersede opinions. Okay, let me break that down for you. I do not care what you think about me. What I do care about is how much closer I am to my goals. And unfortunately, most of the world has that flipped. And if you're honest with yourself, you will see how that comes out in your everyday behavior. It's like people go out and get a truck they can't afford because they're more concerned about people thinking they have money than actually having money. Let me give you a bodybuilding metaphor. So I was 40 when I decided that I was gonna compete in a bodybuilding competition. Now, it took me 4 years to get ready for that first competition. I was 209 pounds when I started training. At my peak off-season weight 3 years later, I was 272 pounds. Now, during that time, you're walking around like a fat bastard. Like, I'm sure people looked at me and thought, wow, that guy must not have very much discipline. Like he's really overweight. I had a big balloon face, the whole 9 yards. But I knew this was an absolutely necessary step in order for me to get where I needed to get and for me to put on the mass I needed to put on so that when I cut all the fat, I would actually have a respectable physique to bring on stage. So I had to care more about how close I was to achieving my goals than what other people thought about me. Then, in 6 months, I went from 272 pounds down to 213 pounds. We can look at the comparison. Clearly, I got where I wanted to go. And then at the end, then I could bask in kind of like the respect and the congratulations. And yeah, it's great when you achieving your goals can align with getting recognized for the effort that you put into achieving your goals, but that should be secondary to the achievement. That's not the primary reason why I'm so focused on achieving. I couldn't care less about what people think about me. What I care about is when I go to bed tonight, how much closer am I to achieving my goals than when I woke up this morning? Bodybuilding taught me that sometimes you need to look like shit before you're gonna look like a beast. The exact same is true in content, hunting, business, almost any discipline that you attack in life. All right, we're finally there. Principle number 5. Burn the boats, but aim first. Jim Collins has a phenomenal business theory. I can't remember, it's called like the bullet theory. The idea is you need to find small, low-risk ways of testing your theories before committing large amounts of resources to it. He uses this example of like 2 pirate ships that are facing off at a great distance. And in your pirate ship, you have a limited number of cannonballs. So what you actually do is you fire a few bullets from your muskets at the other pirate ship to give you a rough idea of the trajectory required for a projectile to hit that boat from your boat. So you have these like low cost bullets that you can use to dial in your strategy. Then once you feel confident, you can take your high cost cannonballs that are actually gonna do significant amount of damage. And yeah, it might not be perfect, but you're gonna be way closer than if you hadn't tested with the bullets first. This prevents wasting time and money on untested ideas. It reduces risk while increasing the chance of making a real impact. It helps you stay agile, but still strategic. Cannonballs aren't brave if you've never aimed. They're just really expensive mistakes. So when I say burn the boats, but aim first, what I'm trying to drive home here is that once you've done all the other steps, you've started to build your platform, you've started to build connection with an audience, you have some ideas about how you might be able to capture some of the value that you're creating, you need to find low-cost ways of testing those ideas that are low risk, while you still have backup income, while you're still working a day job, while you're still doing whatever it is you were doing beforehand. Then, once you've established the results of those tests and you are supremely confident that, yeah, I have a connection with a group of people that follow me that are interested in something I'm gonna deliver, then you need to be able to commit to it fully. Because I honestly believe that until you fully commit to something, you're never gonna see what you're truly capable of. Do you remember all the way back in principle number 2, where I talked about creating value that cuts through the noise? And one of the main ideas I tried to communicate in there was over-delivering on value. Well, we're gonna do principle number 6, just so I can over-deliver on my 5 promised principles. And this final one is to find your voice. So we're gonna flash back all the way to 2017. I'd already been doing Mindful Hunter for a while, but because I was trying to get my consulting business off the ground, I'd actually taken a break from creating any content or having anything to do with online, social media, any of that kind of stuff. But every year, me and my wife sit down and we don't write New Year's resolutions, we write New Year's goals. And we always break them into 3 blocks: family, personal, and business. As I was going through my set of goals for the following year, I was saying to her, like, I would really like to create content again. I mean, I've been a music producer, I've been a videographer, I was a DJ for a long time. Like, I've always been creating things that I got to put out into the public. And I find it very satisfying. It's part of feeling like an artist. You want to create something that you love, and then you want to put it out in the world and see how people react and potentially enrich people's lives. It's a very rewarding, sometimes risky thing to do. And while I was loving my business and everything going on there, I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. The problem was, I didn't have time to like make some kind of business out of it. I didn't need to make any money out of it. I'm doing very well as a consultant. And I didn't want to get roped into this like just making stuff for likes. And she was the one who said to me, why don't you just make what you want? And then that way, who cares if anybody watches it? You get to make the stuff that you feel, aligned with from a creative perspective. And then if people do like it, great. If they don't like it, who cares? You still have all this other stuff that's kind of satisfying you as a person in these other areas of your life. So when I got back into Mindful Hunter that year, the only filter I ever ran things through, like if I thought about filming a piece of content or a piece of gear I wanted to review or a hunt that I was gonna film, the only question I asked myself was, do I wanna do this? Do I think I can make something cool that I'm gonna be interested in when I'm done? And as long as I could answer that yes, honestly and with integrity, then I would make it. And sometimes I put out stuff and other people would like it. Sometimes I'd put out stuff and other people wouldn't like it. But because that wasn't part of my criteria about why I made it, it didn't affect how I felt about making it in the first place. Now, fast forward almost 10 years later, and I've created this audience of people that is so deeply aligned with what I put out that it never even enters my head anymore. Like, are people gonna like this? Or I'm never worried that something I put out is like gonna create controversy or not be well received, or like, oh, is this gonna get enough likes? Like, that's not even part of the filter or the equation, because I've been using my own kind of North Star of integrity for so long now that I've attracted an audience that is like self-filtering to the point where I'm deeply in tune with what they like because I like the same stuff. And so I'm only really worried about those people. And if there's other people that are out on the fringes that are like kind of into my stuff, but not really, then it's like, who cares? You can watch some stuff, don't watch some other stuff. But if the driving motivation is clicks and likes and pleasing as many people as you possibly can, you are never going to develop an inherent voice. that people can trust and build a relationship with. And I think out of all the things I've done with Mindful Hunter, that's the thing that I'm most proud of. I've never done anything that sacrifices my integrity. I've always been completely honest about why I do what I do and all the content that I create. So yeah, principle number 6, find your voice. And when you have your voice and you apply those 5 principles that I've already listed, you will be successful. Listen, you don't need permission. You don't need to go viral. You need patience, precision, and consistency. Do those 3 things and you will be unstoppable. I guarantee it. I hope you guys found that valuable. If you can engage with this content in any way, shape, or form, like, comment, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for tuning in.